after that, so maybe 721 BC,
Right.
and he's using the same thing that Charles de Gaulle said, the same
Right.
thing that's in the Haazinu. I think they also. I mean, it's amazing the persistence of these sorts of characterizations of the Jewish people. So those anti-Semites, they're doing something right because they've been working with they've been sticking to the same prayer book for quite some time.
I remember going to the Beit Midrash of a very liberal, modern Orthodox synagogue, and I found this right-wing agitprop about Israel, and the rabbi said, I didn't put it there, and I said, I knew you didn't, Rabbi, this is all right-wing literature. And the rabbi said, well, the Torah's pretty right-wing. And so I'm reading here Deuteronomy 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of yore, understanding the years of generation after generation. So it's the right wing. It's the conservatives who are always saying, remember how great it used to be.
Right.
Calling people back to their illustrious past.
Absolutely. I would also say that's a characteristic of fundamentalist movements generally, is that they're always pointing back to the golden age. Right. So here we are in Moshe Rabbeinu is up there, giving his valedictory address, and he's already talking about, remember how it used to be when we did it right.
Yeah.
Because your ancestors, boy, they knew how to do it, and they would be ashamed. And so yeah, but remember the days of old. Indeed, whenever anyone says to me, "Remember the days of old," all I'm listening for is, yeah, tell me how great you think it was. But I'm always suspicious that it was ever anything like that. I mean, Islam is the exact same thing. It's constantly going on about how great it was in the time of Muhammad and how awesome it was when they were conquering everything and whatever.
And if you doubt it, says, ask your father and he will relate it to you, your elders, and they will tell you.
Yeah, right.
They'll tell you how good it was.
Right. They'll tell you how good. Well, and I think that was probably true too, because older people often, things were better in their day. So whatever generation you're in, and you can read this in anything from antiquity, that if you talk to the old people, I mean, literally Cicero will tell you this. That if you talk to the old people, it wasn't like the kids now, they're not like they were back in our day, things were better. Well, anatomically modern human beings have been around for maybe 150,000 years. Things were always, and one constant is that things were always better before.
So verse 15, it says that Jeshurun became fat and kicked. In the Art Scroll commentary, when the nation's elite pursued physical pleasures, growing fat, thick, and corpulent, the outcome was that the ordinary folk deserted God and showed him contempt. Such is human nature. When the great stray a little bit, the commoners fall into a steep decline. So, I mean, Jews are certainly fat.
Yeah, I was going to say, my wife and I had a conversation, my in-laws and I had a conversation this week about that. It's actually one of the reasons that they are, that family, the Jewish family, are repelled by Judaism, is that they're, for whatever reason, they got the Protestant thing into them and they just believe in moderation. And the fact that they think uniquely among religious movements that the people who are most pious are also the most portly, gives them great pause.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of where the Sforno says, such is human nature, when the great stray a little bit, the commoners fall into a steep decline. So I'm thinking this means that we could go out and we could snort cocaine off hookers.
Right.
And we could still come back here and teach Torah the next week. But if the lower classes did that, they'd totally collapse and they'd quit their jobs and they'd just do drugs till they croaked.
Well, you mean
do you think that's what the Torah means here?
Well, I think no, my interpretation of that is that they're saying that that there's a special responsibility for elites like us, and elites like us could be me and Luke, or generally anyone who's speaking considers themselves among that group, the elites. Right. So if we're not especially responsible, then all those mediocre people out there, God, can you imagine what they're going to do if they see us behaving even moderately bad? So actually, my first interpretation of that was that it was a special responsibility for people who fancy themselves special.
Have you ever snorted cocaine off a hooker?
I have not had the pleasure.